Morning, everyone. We'll wait just another minute or two and see if we have a few more people jumping on the call. I know there's some competing meetings this morning for WSU directors. They have a meeting at 10, and then the president of WSU is giving a town hall meeting at 11. So we are recording this meeting, and we'll make sure that it's available as both a recording and as notes for those of you who need to jump off the call, or for those of you who we know couldn't join today. Just a reminder as well, for those of you who are on the call, if you could mute yourself until you want to talk, and we encourage you to use the chat box as well. So we'll be talking about that in just a minute. Okay, so let's go ahead and get started. I just want to thank all of you for participating. This is our second week of hosting this meeting for all of us to check in and share resources, talk about what's going on in relation to the Washington food system and COVID. Last week we had 68 participants, and it was really energizing to hear from so many of you about what's happening across the state. We've also been updating our webpage, so we'll go through some of the resources that are currently available. This is hosted by the WSU Food Systems program, and I'm just going to give a really brief overview of some of our information as we get started. So this is our agenda for today. We're going to talk about just a really quick overview of the hub. Hopefully most of you were on last week's call, so this should be fairly basic, but please let us know if you have questions as well. We're also going to go over the first draft of the COVID needs assessment tool. And we have two different reports that we'll be going over. And again, that tool is open. We're looking at collecting data weekly. So if you haven't already participated in the survey tool, please do so before Saturday, and we'll post the final report for this past week on Sunday or Monday so that you can take a look at it. We're also going to talk about sharing resources for underrepresented communities in Washington. We didn't get to that last week, and we're really hoping to hear from a few of you on the call today about resources that you're aware of so that we can build out that portion of the hub, and then just some time for sharing stories and needs as well. I want to welcome everyone. I want to encourage all of you to introduce yourselves in the chat box. We have about 40 participants on the call right now, so we don't have time to go through and do a round robin with everyone. So please write in the chat box who you are, where you're located, and what you do. And also share resources throughout the call in the chat box that we can post to the site or that you want to make sure people are aware of. We will capture all of that and make sure that it is available to everyone on the call, as well as in our resources as we get those going. Just a little bit about our program. So we deliver multidisciplinary expertise across academic research and extension, providing specialized resources for farmers and food system contributors. We seek to work with communities throughout the state to foster viable farm businesses, optimize sustainable natural resource stewardship, and to promote scaled processing and distribution, always in the pursuit of access to healthy food for all. You can see our 7 focus areas on this slide as well, and that's we've based some of the resource hub around these program focus areas as well. And just so you know, this hub is for both internal and external partners working across the food system, and so is the needs assessment. So you can see the reach of WSU in terms of we have faculty and staff in all 39 counties and on the Colville tribe. And then we also have campuses located throughout the state, as well as research and extension centers. And then we're also affiliated with the small business development centers. So the purpose of this hub is to provide a space to connect regularly, like I said, with both our internal WSU faculty and staff working across the food system, as well as with all of our partners, producers, processors, food security actors, everyone working really across to support the Washington food system, with particular focus right now on the COVID pandemic. We're working to collect and update resources to support the Washington food system. So if you see on the hub that we are lacking resources that you know about, please send them to Nicole. We'll get them posted. If you also see resources that you feel we haven't had a chance to curate everything, I think we have about 80 or 90 links right now on the pages. And so we haven't had a chance to digest everything fully. We've been pulling from the Food Systems National Leadership Network, as well as other links that are sent to us. So if you see something that you feel like isn't going to be representative of what we need in Washington or is misleading, please also let us know about that. So we want this to be something that we're all curating together. And so if you have a chance to provide us with some feedback, that's great. Part of our hub is also our dynamic needs assessment tool. So we have this set up to go out. It's a dynamic link. It's a static link, but a dynamic survey. And we are hoping to collect information every single week across several different sectors of the food system to understand emerging needs and urgent needs that people have for resources. So we're going to go over some of those draft reports today. Like I said, that survey is still open. It will be open until we're through this pandemic, and maybe even create a needs assessment tool that goes beyond COVID that we can continue to use and update. So I'm going to go over some of those responses in just a few minutes. And then we also want to just provide time and space to share stories and receive support from one another. I know it's been a bit of a fire hose in terms of the information that's coming out and all of the different webinars and events that are happening as well. And that's just to put a plug in also for your access to our calendar of events. So Nicole and Tia have been working really hard to make sure that webinars that are taking place across the state and across the country are being posted on our website, and any other events or resources that you can participate in. So if you see something that's coming out or you want to make sure that it's posted here, please go ahead and forward that information to us. We'll get it online. And again, use this as a resource to be able to check in and see what's happening near you. Not necessarily near you because we're all not near each other right now, but that's located online for you to access. And then also our Farm Finder tool. So I just wanted to remind everyone that this is live on our website. We're updating it weekly. And if you have a chance to go through, especially if you are located in a county where you know a lot of the producers in your community, and you see on this list that we have producers that are listed that are no longer operating, please let us know so we can remove them, and encourage producers to put their information up here. This is a great way for consumers to be able to find local and regional food. And we're really hoping to expand this to fisheries as well. So that's something that we've been talking quite a bit about over the next couple of weeks. Okay, so I'm going to go ahead and stop sharing the screen and talk about the reports really quick. So I ran 2 reports. They're both posted on our website right now. And the first, what I'm going to do every single week is run 3 reports. One will be a comprehensive report of all of the information. And then we'll have a report that just shows those who are external to WSU and those who are internal to WSU. So we'll have 3 reports. We can filter these reports by county, by parts of the food system sector, by underrepresented groups that you're serving, by tribes that are being served. So if you want a report, a specific report, please let us know and we can run that report for you. So we'll take a look at the internal report, and I haven't gotten all of the graphics right yet. So at the end of this reporting week, I'll make sure to go through and rerun this report and add some additional information, especially about some of the assistance that was outside of these categories in the other. But you can see here, this is again the faculty and staff who took it from WSU. We have about 50 people who've taken the survey, and about half are internal to WSU and half are external. We'd really love to see those numbers jump up in the weeks ahead so that we have just more robust data that we can use to help assess resources and needs across the state. So we had quite a few county directors as well as administrative professionals. These are a lot of our educators across the state that deliver programs. I redundantly put that graph in twice. In terms of affiliation, youth and families won a gold star this week for taking the survey. We had more youth and families, faculty and staff taking the survey than any of our other extension programs. Really pleased to see that. And so many of our youth and families are working on food security and other aspects of food preservation across the state, as well as other activities to support Washington's food system. So which sector does your work support? And you can see here the food security sector was over 20% of the people that filled this out. And then we had just about 20% for agricultural production as well. In what county are you based? This isn't the best graph for this, but I'm hoping to be able to update this. King County had the highest participation, but we also had quite a few respondents from Kitsap County, as well as many of the other counties across the state. So thank you again for participating. Do you work with any tribes? So we have 36 tribes listed. We have 29 of the federally recognized tribes, and then 7 of the non-federally recognized tribes in the state as well. And so again, if you want a report that's specifically filtered on one of these tribal communities, let us know and we can show you what is coming up as high need. I'm just gonna scan through this. And you can see the scale bar down below. So this means that 2 people responded that they were working with the Yakima tribe. And we had the highest response rate for Colville tribal, Colville tribal community. This is just looking at the geographic area in which you work. So county versus state, regional work, and tribal reservation work. So quite a bit of diversity in terms of the scope of work that people are doing within WSU. And then this looks at underrepresented communities that your program serves. And again, if you want me to run a report with just a filter on any of these communities, let me know. We're also going to add homeless communities to this. That was something that we hadn't added. So if you see a group that isn't represented here that you want to have in this survey, please let us know. Okay, so actually getting into some of the needs. So when thinking about food safety training, please identify your program needs. And you can see here how the survey was structured: low or no need, medium need, high need, or maybe a future need. And food preservation and food handling definitely rose to the top in terms of high need. And that's something that, you know, working with some of our WSU food preservation specialists, our one and only Lizanne, to try to get some more resources out there in terms of looking at food preservation. We know a lot of our partners are also working a lot on food handling, farmers market, and direct to consumer, both internal to WSU as well as external to WSU. So if you have resources specifically focused on food handling and food preservation, please send them our way so we can get those uploaded onto our site. This is looking at food production needs. And we had quite a high need for technical support for home gardeners. So I know a lot of us have been inundated with information or questions about growing food themselves, and then also technical support for farmers, and then finding farms to buy from. And finding farms to buy from was one of the highest categories that we saw for the external report. Economic impacts, looking for alternative market platforms, rose to the top in terms of high need. But a medium need was also software and technical support. And that was also listed by several of you as a high need. And then thinking about food security and access, more food for food pantries rose to the top in both of external and internal support. And this is something that we know is a tremendous need right now across the state. Many of us are working on trying to figure out how to understand the changing, the disruption in the food supply chain, and understanding how those changes are happening over time, so that we can be on the ball and make sure that food pantries and food banks have access to local, regional, national food supply chains. We also saw a need for more supplies, as well as more support for school garden programs. And then looking at food regulations, fiscal support came up as the highest need. We know that's urgent right now. There's been a tremendous amount of information coming out about different programs that are available for food and farm businesses to apply for fiscal support. And some of those programs are being tweaked to provide more support. So again, if you see things coming out that you want us to share or post on the website, let us know. I think that this is going to be a critical need for several weeks to come, if not several months to come. So that's the end of the report that we have for the internal partners of WSU, and I'll just quickly share our external report as well. Okay, so which of the following best describes your role in the Washington food system sector? We had several participants from government agencies and resource providers. We had some producers that filled out the survey, as well as food security organizations. And again, this survey is available to anyone you want to send it to in your networks. So don't be shy. Send it out. It doesn't take too long, and we can also tweak it as we move forward to make it more efficient. This is looking at the food system sector in which you work. Agricultural production definitely rose to the top, but we had a lot of people working on economic benefits and for food and farm businesses as well. In what county are you based? So we had King County reporting, Kitsap, Pierce, San Juan County, Skagit, Spokane County, Walla Walla County, Whatcom County, and Whitman County. So again, pushing this out to your network so we can get a greater view of the state would be great. Do you work with any tribes in Washington state? If so, please identify which ones. We have most of the tribal communities represented here, which is nice to see. And then the geographic area in which you work. So many people are county-based. We have regional and statewide representation, as well as tribal reservation work that's happening in terms of scope. And then which of the following underrepresented communities are you serving through your work? And again, if you want to report specifically looking at this, let us know. And again, we will be adding homeless populations to this in the coming week. Okay, so in terms of needs, so as we saw on the internal report from WSU, food preservation info was the highest need, but for our external partners, it's actually farmers markets and direct-to-consumer food handling information. So it's interesting just to see the different resource needs, both internal to WSU in terms of supporting communities and what's happening externally with our partners and the resources that they need. In terms of food production, finding farms to buy from was by far the highest need that was listed. This was not the highest need internally to WSU, and I think that this is really something important for us to keep in mind. I know there's lots of resources out there right now. I mentioned our Farm Finder. Tilth and Sustainable Connections are working on updating the Food Atlas and the Fresh Guide to make that statewide and more accessible as well. Any other platforms that you know of out there that you want to share, please do so that we can really help consumers find places to buy from, not just consumers, institutions, organizations that are looking for local and regional food. In terms of economic impacts, high needs were support for alternative market platforms and labor. So this is something that we didn't capture with the internal report for WSU, and again, looking at resources associated with labor over the next week. And we're going to probably change that. Do you need more labor, or how is labor a problem? So we don't actually ask that specifically, but that was some of the feedback that we got this week. And so I will definitely go into the back end of the survey and see if we can make that, just provide a little more clarity to that. And then looking at food security and food access, identifying needs for your program. And again, it was the highest need for both communities that I ran the reports for. So food banks need more food. And so this was reported as a very high need for both of the reports. And then in terms of fiscal support, this is also one of the highest needs that we have. So those really emerged as urgent needs for us to all be focused and working on. How are we supporting our food security networks in terms of getting more food in? And then how are we supporting our food and farm businesses in terms of getting more resources for fiscal support?
It's a conference, but it's not. I don't have input, so it's just listening.
And please mute yourself if you're not currently speaking. Okay, so I'm gonna go ahead and just go back to the PowerPoint presentation that we had up, just as a graphic to have here. And I'm happy to take questions through the chat, as well as if there's any really quick feedback that anyone wants to give in terms of the survey and the needs assessment tool. Great. Well, like I said, those reports will be updated weekly on our website. You can look at them across the weeks as they come out, so you can see how needs are changing. And I'm happy, again, to also filter reports for you and your organization specifically if there's something that you want to look at. Our goal is to be able to see this information, try to create more resources or find resources to help with these high needs. And if you listed needing direct assistance, we'll follow up with you next week as well. So I think we had maybe 6 or 7 people that put their contact information in asking for specific assistance across several of these areas. So I'm going to go ahead now and open up discussion. So last week we didn't get a chance to really talk about resources for underrepresented groups and communities in our state. And I'd love to know, I know that we had reached out specifically to Valerie Segrest, who's with the Native American Agricultural Fund, to see if she had any specific resources or feedback that she'd like to share. And then we also have Naima from Nurturing Roots, who's going to try to participate this morning as well. I haven't had a chance to go in and look at all of the participants. But anyone else also who's on the phone who has specific resources or resource needs to really help support underrepresented communities in our state, we'd love to hear from you now and open that up for discussion and feedback.
This is Kate Smith, and I just wanted to kind of give a kudos to how many of the resources have been made available in Spanish across the state for financial opportunities for farmers and other videos and resources. So everyone that's creating those and making those, good job making them available in Spanish. And if others haven't been made available yet, yeah, just to encourage more of that. So great job, everyone.
Great, thanks, Kate.
Kate, are you hearing or seeing anything specific within the Latinx community that could be supported more, or that there's missing or gaps of information that could be created in Spanish?
I'd say not at the moment, but I'll keep my ears open. In terms of like general information, I think that at least for our county, for Skagit County, the health department's doing a really good job of having everything available in Spanish, and there's a lot of collaboration across organizations for that, even outside of agriculture. And then, yeah, I think I'll just keep that in my mind to see if I can identify any other gaps. But currently, right now, I think what I'm hearing most is, yeah, market access and financial resource access for the farmers that I work with.
Great.
This is Benji Osterkon over in Clallam County. I just wanted to chime in on that because I got an email this morning from over in Forks here in Western Clallam County. There's a larger immigrant community that is often doing farming or harvesting activities, and they're all out of a job right now. And so I got an email from the Forks Human Rights group that was asking for direct donations. But something I noticed in the email that I passed on to my coworkers here at the Clallam Extension was that they were asking about food resources and also seeds and seedlings. I sent over the food resources I'm aware of, and hopefully we can support them with seeds and seedlings. But just something to note for, they're specifically struggling with people of varied immigration status, and so more formal channels of aid and relief are not available to everyone and not available to a lot of the people in that community. So just thinking about ways that extension can jump in and make sure they're connected to things like food or growing resources that, you know, extension offices, master gardeners, food access programs might already be hooked into an
Great, thanks, Benji. I wanted to also just call out Jason Alves. I saw that you had posted a comment, but could you talk a little bit about some of the work that's happening to support veterans?
Can you guys hear me? Okay.
Yes.
Sorry. Yep. So through the Farmer Veterans Coalition state chapter, it's in process, but we do have the ability to support financially any emerging needs that we see in some of the farmer veterans. So as that develops, if you have any veterans that are producers, please let them know that the state chapter of the Farmer Veterans Coalition is available. Also, through the national organization, any farmer veteran that's already designated as homegrown by Heroes, they're developing a search engine, which will help out with some of that market access, just another platform to give folks access to. And through the State Department of Veterans Affairs, we are going to be rolling out a training on the 14th, which is specifically, well, it's more or less focused on veterans, but it's around mental health and resilience in the face of COVID. And this is open to anybody and everybody, although there will be a focus on veterans with that.
Great, thank you so much, Jason.
And that webinar that he's talking about for April 14th is posted on our website. So I'm going to be going to it, and I would say that I think in this time that it's probably very valid for just about anyone coping with COVID.
And we also had an ask from ABBA, one of our WSU Food Systems members, our project manager, about whether or not it would be useful to make the survey accessible in Spanish. So I'd love to hear some feedback on that as well. That's definitely something we could work towards.
Hey there, this is Amy at. Oh, go ahead, Amy. Oh, hey, so this is Amy, and I'm representing my Four Elements Farm in this question. It's about Spanish-speaking resources in Spanish language, and I don't know if this exists already, so if it does, please tell me, but we could really use videos in Spanish to educate our crew about the virus, about how it spreads and how to keep themselves safe on the job and outside of the job as well. And it needs to be in a video format, not print.
Great, that's good feedback. Thank you for sharing.
Amy, I'm just curious, a video like that too, would it be more helpful if it was more physical in terms of actually showing how to prepare yourself or how to prepare your surroundings for work? Or would webinar, I know there are some existing webinars out there that I think they're working on translating, but I'm just curious if you have any feedback there.
Yeah, I do. So for our employee purposes, it's not a webinar. It's not something like that. What would be more useful is think of like a 5-minute YouTube video kind of thing, like educate, like this is how the virus spreads. You don't have to be sick. This is how to keep yourself safe at work. Just because we're going to be doing some mandating on safety things that haven't been there in the past, and we want people to know why it's happening and to really understand it so that they don't think it's irrelevant, or they don't, when no one's looking, they stop doing it, that kind of thing. And yeah, just an educational video for folks that maybe that haven't had a formal education. So print material or anything written word is not relevant. So yeah.
Great, thanks, Amy.
Cassandra, would you like to share? I saw that you just posted some information from the Urban Indian Health Institute.
Yeah, I was just thinking about it when you were mentioning the inclusion of homelessness in the needs assessment moving forward. And I realized that was a video our webinar that was hosted a couple weeks ago by Urban Indian Health Institute here in Seattle, where they were talking about the changes that they implemented in their facilities that they have that serve individuals experiencing homelessness. And then they've also released a fact sheet as well. And I found it helpful in the sense that it was speaking to organizations that are still trying to stay open and stay functional during this time.
Great, and I wonder if that's a resource, if that was recorded in something that we could post a link to.
Yeah, so that's what I posted in the chat, was a link to the recorded webinar.
Great. Sounds like maybe we need to set up a YouTube channel just specifically for all of these. I know we have some links to webinars, but maybe a YouTube channel would also be a helpful resource just to bundle all of this information together.
I was also going to add, just for anyone working with tribal nations, that the Cheyenne River Sioux tribe has released a number of short videos about what they're doing in their nation. And I don't know if that might be something that would be helpful or known about by the other tribes in Washington. I'm looking at their YouTube channel right now, which I can send the link for. And they don't have a ton of views on them, but they have small videos about hand washing and social distancing and things like that.
Great, thank you so much.
This is Marilyn Sitteker from Evergreen State College, and I have a question. I'm wondering if anyone is compiling on a state level a list of distribution resources, so things like farmer needs for trucking and distribution, food, labor, storage, cold storage, remote technical assistance, something that would be more in the line of resources for farmers. I note that the Farm to Institution New England has created this kind of a resource. I'll be glad to send Laura and Nicole a link to this region-wide Excel spreadsheet as an example, but I think it would be so great to complement the work that you're doing with the survey on needs of our food system in Washington with something that's a little bit more detailed that could really be used to match the need with the resources regarding, the nuts and bolts of our food system here in Washington.
That's great feedback, Marilyn. I know we've had so many disruptions across the supply chain right now, and I've had some conversations. I would love to talk with you more about this offline. And I know Jennifer Otten, you're on the call as well. And we've had some conversations about this as well. I don't know if you want to share some of your thoughts. Oh, I see her, but I don't hear her.
I'm hearing some kind of feedback noise. Jennifer, are you using a mic or headset? Yeah, it sounds like you might be having some mic issues. Maybe enter something in the chat real quick.
She can't get off mute, it says. Let me see if I can remove mute from. Let's see. I can try to unmute her.
It shows that she's unmuted.
Yeah, I know. Okay, well, we'll come back to you, Jennifer, if we can get that figured out. Sorry about that. Anyone else who'd like to share resources that they know about, whether they're in Washington or other parts around the country that we could definitely draw from to help support what's happening here? I love the idea of creating a more producer-facing survey. That it's something that Jennifer and I had spoken about this week as well. So maybe there's a team of you on this call that would like to participate and talk about something like that. And then also, yeah, just anyone else who has resources that they'd like to talk about, and with particular focus on our underrepresented communities.
Hey, Laura, this is Patrice Barentine. I wanted to ask if anyone, we know one of the greatest needs, and it showed up on the survey that you've conducted, is technical assistance for websites, et cetera, so that folks can actually post how they've changed their business and what they're now offering. Does anybody out there know of web design groups that are looking at easy payment services or pro bono services to serve farmers right now?
It's a great question.
I was actually waiting to see if Tia was going to pipe up. She might know some. There are specifically some web-based things like Farmingo and Harvey,
Sure.
and Local Food Marketplace that are more about managing your delivery or CSA programs, but it's not necessarily developing, say, your own website. In the past, Weebly and a few other website hosts have been, Wiz are a few that have been suggested because they're really easy and free to set up a website for yourself. But that's definitely something to consider. That would be a good webinar topic. I think a lot of people are looking for that, and I think also integrating social media communications into your marketing plan now as well.
Let me follow that up with, I don't know if others of you saw the really interesting collaboration between the City of Seattle and UW on the restaurant-based GIS information. So it is really interesting platform in that restaurants can update their information, super simple to, if they're doing pickup now or reduced hours, how they're ordering, payment information, that kind of thing. So there's both the owner side of things that can do simple updates into it, and then there's the public facing side where you can search geographically or by what you're looking for to eat, or by hours that things are open to access food. And we are exploring if we can borrow that platform, rebuild something like that so that farms can use it for farm stands, for CSA changes, etc. So we're looking at that because we think that might be an easier fix for some folks. Don't know if anybody else is working on things like that.
This is Marilyn Sittiker again. And just last night I was talking with an advisory group for a food hub that is being formed here in Thurston County. And we were looking at a comparison chart for online platforms. And I just posted it in the chat. And it just kind of compares the startup cost, the pricing, ease of use, et cetera, for a variety of different online platforms that range in price to free to being quite expensive for a annual subscription. So hopefully that'll be helpful. And there's also links to each one of these platforms so people can explore them a little bit more themselves.
Great, thank you so much. And I know Henry Wong, are you on the phone? Do you want to just give a shout out to what you posted on the chat as well?
Yeah, so I was on another call and someone from the WSDA was talking about a call they're setting out on Monday. And that one has some of those business-to-business elements that someone else was just mentioning curiosity about. So trying to connect people that have extra capacity or need assistance on whether it's distribution or, online ordering, whatever that may be. So more of that business-to-business element, which I haven't seen as much. I've seen a lot of calls and with kind of providers and technical assistance resources, but not as much of that trying to connect businesses or having businesses connect with each other, which is sometimes a little easier. So.
Great. I know just from a call we had this week with some of the regional grain, artisan grain groups across the country, the scramble to try to get these websites up has been really pressing for many farms that didn't currently have a web portal or any sort of website presence. And Sarah Sutherland, you just put in the chat too about maybe there's a way to kind of catalyze around this in terms of seeking additional resources or I can't promote advocacy from a WSU perspective, but maybe there's a way for people to look at maybe some asks of some of our government officials or even some of the large businesses, tech businesses that we have throughout the Pacific Northwest, see if there's some additional support there. Just love to hear anybody's feedback.
I was going to see if Laura or Chris from the WSDA, I know they're posting links in the chat, but do you want to do either of you want to talk about the upcoming educational opportunities you'll be hosting? Or it could be
Karen Ullman.
Karen. Someone from the WSDA Regional Markets Program, do you want to unmute and talk a little bit about some of the resources that you're responding in the chat with?
Yeah, sure. This is Chris. This is Chris Ibley from WSDA Regional Markets. I was hoping Karen or Laura were on because they have more details than I think I do, but I can try to speak to them. I just posted 2 links to the overall WSDA agency resources on COVID-19 that I think addresses a few of the questions about what's out there for guidance to food banks and to food businesses and farms too. So there's some good resources there, along with our small farm direct marketing resources from regional markets, which also links out to a lot of other resources and folks on this call that are providing all kinds of great services and support for farms too. And I can also speak to on Monday, which Henry mentioned, the call that's being organized that I helped send out the invite for is, I think, speaking to exactly what Marilyn was asking about and trying to support infrastructure and business-to-business collaboration that is going to help out small farms moving forward, whether it's food hubs and other folks. So while there's not maybe a centralized Excel list yet for some of that, I think that's part of the discussion for Monday for sure.
Chris, is that an invite-only meeting or webinar, or is it something we could post and promote? Being really clear with the audience.
Yeah, the intended audience is definitely for businesses that are providing, services to a lot of the food hubs. We don't want it to get too big to be unwieldy, not to be able to, I'm not excluding anybody, but to be able to have really good, meaningful, discussions about what collaboration partnerships are needed and how we can organize those. So yeah, you can just add me in the chat box maybe if you want me to send you the invite for that. If you're working on any of those issues, yeah, more people are definitely welcome.
Sure. And I just wanted to add to that, or ask perhaps if you think it's appropriate. There's a lot of CSA farms that are looking for information on how to better collaborate with one another to jointly run CSAs. Do you think that they would find, or there would be applicable information for them within this, or opportunities to collaborate through food hubs?
Potentially, yeah. There's a few multi-farm CSAs that were on the list already and I think are joining. So, there's definitely a conversation with food hubs that serve wholesale markets that are shifting to direct-to-consumer markets, and how we can, support those types of expansions, and what else they need to do that type of growth and shift and adaptation. So, yeah, I don't know if that answers your question, but.
Sure. Yeah. So I just wanted to be sure, because I've had some specific reach outs about that. So if I can forward on that meeting information to folks, even if they just want to kind of tune in and hear, that would be helpful.
Yeah, I think that would be good for CSA farms that are looking to expand or add new producers. How would that look to expand into more of a multi-farm model? Those would be good discussions to have. Yeah.
Great, thank you.
And I'll share, sorry, one last thing. Karen Ullman did host a food safety and handling webinar this week for small farms, and that's going to be posted. So the regional markets page I mentioned, I think we're trying to get the recording for that posted too for folks, and she'll be working on some other food safety related, for handling and kind of responses moving forward.
I wanted to see if Garish was still on the call as well. I know that you've been also doing some work around processing and food safety. And I know that there was some flyers that came out a couple of weeks ago, one in English and one in Spanish. And I just wanted to see if you had anything else in the works that you could share.
Hey, Laura. So yes, that was Faith actually put together some really cool stuff, and I think you got them right, and you forwarded them on. Only thing I'll add is in the next few weeks, end of April and into May and June, we will do a lot of online food safety workshops. So we're transitioning a lot of that stuff that we used to do in person to online. So I'll make sure to send those notices out to you so you can share with people.
Great. Is there any opportunity as well for translation services during any of those workshops or virtual meetings?
We haven't gone that direction yet for the near future, but if we're gonna try this out and see the online how it works out, and then we have lined up, actually, we usually do at least 2-3 workshops in Spanish, and I'm trying to work with those speakers to see if they can also come and help with that. So depends on the first one, how it goes.
Great, thank you. Any other specific resources people want to share that are specific to underrepresented populations and communities?
I did want to let everyone know in terms of the kind of consumer facing or garden education or beginning gardener education. We've had kind of several opportunities pop up, one of which is a course that's already being held in the Skagit area. I think they already had their first course last week, but there's going to be several coming up. So things like that, being able to promote courses that would normally be run within a county to kind of open those up to a regional or statewide audience is something that we're looking to help support. And we know that from the responses that we're seeing that seems to be a big need or interest for folks, is how to start a garden, how to get things going. So please let me know if you have any additional resources as far as that's concerned. The two courses that I'm aware of are happening on the west side and may not be as applicable to broadcast for a statewide audience just due to the growing conditions. So please let me know if you're in the central or eastern Washington and you have any other educational opportunities as far as beginning gardening curriculas that are going to be going online. And I can help promote those to a broader audience.
Great. So I'm just going to open it up for general discussion as well. And I wanted to just, I don't know if Jennifer got her audio figured out, but we've been talking this week about fisheries as well and how we can really be responding to that sector. There's been a tremendous shift in that supply chain, especially with so many restaurants not serving either not open or not serving the volume of food that they were. A lot of the fisheries that we have in Washington really depend on this trade. And so looking at how we can develop out additional resources to really include fisheries as well. And so if that's something that you are interested in, please reach out to us and let us know. I think that there's some really fascinating work that we could do in terms of bringing together resources to look at supporting that sector. So I just want to open it up now generally and see if there's anything people want to share, specific resources they've heard about, specific resource needs that they want, and also just general stories in terms of how things are going across the state right now related to COVID and your work.
Hey, Laura, this is Nils here. Are you able to hear me?
Yes.
I wanted to just relay that the farmers, the larger supply farmers that we count on at our farmers markets, probably the two largest farmers market farmers here in Stevens County, what they've told me is they have no idea what's going to happen during the season, but they are planting extra. So we're all hoping that there'll be more funding towards the end of the season for farm to food pantry so we can help purchase some of that produce, but we'll be working with them on whatever kind of model might be useful. If they end up developing CSAs, we can help deliver that stuff along with our farm to food pantry deliveries and farm to community deliveries. But I think I've been really surprised by how positive the farmers are in my region about planting more, even though they don't have a market for sure for what they're planting.
Thanks for sharing. Anyone else?
Hey, Laura, this is Girish.
Hey, Girish.
I just wanted to share, I mean, with respect to the food companies within the state and the region, you know, the production plants, what I'm hearing is in the last week, there have been a few plants that shut down. And that's because if anybody who is working in the plant had a positive COVID case, then that's triggering the shutdowns. And I bring that up because, you know, a lot of there'll be if this continues on, there will be people who will be jobless, and that's not going to be good in terms of the, you know, the whole society. So that's kind of happening in Washington State and the region. Yesterday we had a call with the regional. We have a food safety sanitation workshop. We have a committee representing the industry, and a lot of them were mentioning that yesterday.
Thanks for sharing. I know that's something that we're working with the WSDA on, is in terms of tracking food security needs and increased unemployment rates across the state and how that's going to affect the food system sector. So yeah, I have a question here from Chris Ostrander as well. Is there any dumping of dairy or produce happening in Washington? She asks. Does anyone know? Okay, anything else that people want to share? Specific updates?
This is Lizanne. I do know that State Department of Health is working on guidance for farmers markets for safety, so that will go through the retail system, local health, it'll be state health, local health. But they are working on that guidance document right now. So that should be coming out soon.
Great. And do you want to mention any of your food preservation resources as well that really came out, especially internally within WSU, as a high need, and how we can support maybe getting those resources out to more people, or any ideas?
So probably, you know, we have lots of online things, publications that we can probably do a link to. I think seeing how Garish and their programs go with online delivery, we can kind of get a feel for best practices and how we might be able to do some things along those lines. But we'll let them be the test of that system, and then use their lessons learned. So hopefully maybe can get some things up more visual and action oriented than print.
And I know,
sorry.
I think the food preservation, are we linked to our publications?
I was just going to say, Lizanne, I've been working on finding your items online, and I think I've been successful at finding some of them. But if you and I want to connect, I'd love to directly link any existing online resources you have in terms of publications. And then even if you have a favorite, I know this might sound a little bit layman, but even if you have a favorite book or books that you refer to around food preservation or canning, at this point, there's a lot of folks looking for good information. And I think providing them with good information and not misinformation would be our best bet at this point, if there's not any online courses. So I'd love anything that you have.
Great. We will chat and get that in a usable format.
Awesome.
And if we continue to see this as a high need, I think it might be worth also just having a conversation about whether or not we could, I know that you typically teach the Master Food Preservers course in person, but maybe there's an option to go online with some of that as well.
Well, the other alternative, Master Food Preservers is set up to be a volunteer training, but we can set up, and we've had this discussion, a certification. So we're not training them to necessarily be a volunteer, but training, you know, giving the information so that they're very highly skilled and competent, but that doesn't set up the local office for managing volunteer programs. So that's really, I think, the route that would be most successful as a starting point.
Great. Yeah. And then I just saw a comment from Colette de Phelps about the Idaho Victory Garden. Do you want to speak about that as well?
think it was Ariel who's managing the Victory Garden program. Or maybe she just put her, oh, it's Colette posting, I see.
Yes.
Colette, yeah, Colette, do you want to unmute and just say a few things? You guys have some fantastic webinars that you've been organizing that are coming out over the next couple weeks.
Sorry, my sound isn't very good on my home computer. Can you hear me okay now?
Yeah.
That's great.
Okay, great. So yes, the Idaho Victory Garden curriculum was developed by Ariel Eggenbrod, who's an educator down in Southwest Idaho, but she put it on the eXtension campus platform, and it's totally free. It's a self-paced course, and it does have a food production model, food preservation model, and in addition to food production and food safety and some other great topics. So it's definitely available, and the resources are available to anyone that would like to use them. And then with Cultivating Success, which many of you are already familiar with, we have a series of webinars that are coming up. Next Monday, there will be one, and Faith Kreitzer with WSU is our speaker, and she'll be talking about best practices for farmers markets and farm stands during COVID-19. And then the week of April 21st, on that Tuesday, we'll have a Getting Started with CSA. So that's for people who are looking to do a CSA but haven't done one before, and that will be at 11 a.m. Pacific time. And then at 1 p.m. Pacific time, Stephanie Smith from WSU will be doing a webinar on best practices for farm deliveries, pickups, and CSAs during COVID-19. This week on Monday, we had a best practices for community gardens webinar, which is available through the Cultivating Success website, and I provided some links in the chat, and that webinar had 478 people on it, and over 200 of those people were from Washington State. So I think it's pretty useful information. And then we are just posting today a webinar that's on backyard poultry production, because what we're finding in Idaho is that a lot of people have bought birds that have never had birds before to have backyard flocks for eggs, and we wanted to make sure that there were some really good resources out there for them. And then Kate Painter, who is an extension educator up in our most northern county, and myself will be doing that webinar.
Colette, do we will try to link to as much of this information as we can, but if you can send us any resources that we can push out to this group, that would be great. And then are these going to be recorded as well and available?
Yes.
Okay, great. Excellent.
They're all recorded, and the one that we did on Monday for community gardens is recorded, so people can access the recording and the slide decks online. And so you could just go to the website.
Excellent. Oh, there it is.
Yeah, so the backyard poultry one will go on later today, and that's the week of the 28th.
Perfect.
Yeah.
And just so you guys know, they are all of these webinars that Colette and her team have been creating are also cataloged here. So there's others that were even from earlier on pre-COVID that I think are still applicable and helpful. So I have linked these things in our website that will bring you here, and then I'm working on getting all of the webinars into our calendar system. So you can go to this website to check everything out, but we'll also keep pumping these things out as well.
Great.
Yeah, we have a bi-monthly newsletter that you can sign up for if you would like. It usually comes out every other Wednesday, and we list all the new resources on there. And because of COVID-19, we did send an additional newsletter because so many things are rolling out so fast. You know, it seems like every day there's another webinar that has been posted.
Yeah, I agree.
Yeah.
Great. Thank you so much, Colette. We had a great
you're
question
welcome.
from Lauren Imes as well about UPIC operations and concern about the impact on their business. And has there been anybody who has been in discussions about UPIC operations and how they might deal with a shutdown as their season nears? a lot of these operations aren't necessarily set up to hire workers.
Laura, I'd like to respond to that. While I haven't seen any directives yet for UPIC, we are planning on using some of the guidance that comes out from county health departments or the state regarding how to implement best COVID-19 directives to keep vendors and the public safe. We are planning to use those and extrapolate them and try to get them approved for UPIC. Thinking about social distancing, payment options, containers, all of those kinds of things. So I think, we've all been pretty busy the past few weeks, and public health certainly has, but I do believe that's a good route to take, and I'm interested in how other people are thinking about this.
Thanks, Patrice. Anyone else?
This is Colette again. I'm going to put in the chat a link to a fact sheet that the Western Regional Center to Enhance Food Safety put out about steps for farm managers on UPIC farms.
Great. And I see that Kate Smith also posted something from North Carolina State University as well about UPIC farms. So we save our entire chat dialogue with all these resources, and then we'll work to get them uploaded onto our website over the next week. So again, thanks for continuing to share those links.
Hi, Laura, this is Gwen.
Gwen?
Hi, from Tilth. Can I just ask the person who was from Thurston County who had resources on the comparison of online platforms? I'm not sure who it was talking.
That was Marilyn.
It was Marilyn?
Marilyn, are you on the line?
Okay. I was wondering if she could share, or maybe already did share, that info via chat, and I just didn't find it.
Let me see. She's from...
Also, Gwen, I'm not sure, this might not be as much of a fiscal comparison, but the Oregon TILF did put out a webinar that went through, I think, 4 different online marketing platforms. And they have a webinar or a video. We have it saved and posted on our website, but if you go to TILF, Oregon TILF's website, there is a video there where they go through a few of those.
Yeah, thanks. I was on that one, but I think that it was more the kind of the comparison that.
Sure.
So Gwen, can folks hear me?
Yep.
I did send a link. Let's see, I put it in the chat, but I'll go ahead and I'll send a link around to everyone as well.
Great, thank you so much. And we'll get that resource posted
Thanks.
as well. Yeah. And Susan Kerr said you can also search COVID-19 UPIC, lots of stuff. So thank you, Susan. Susan, do you have anything in particular you want to share about specific resources and work that you've been doing, as specifically how it pertains to livestock operations?
Hi, everybody. We're just about to put something on the web about groups of people working with groups of livestock, because some 4-H clubs or FFA chapters, or even people, regular people, share care of their livestock as a group, some cooperative situation or school farms and so on. And there's these recommendations will be listed about how to keep social distancing going while doing group care of animals. So really it's heightening the biosecurity you should be doing already, but a lot of scheduling things too. Just schedule shifts of workers, so there's just one household there at a time, and various other things. So that publication should come out shortly.
Thank you so much, Susan. I just had a comment in the chat from Jude as well, asking if there's a search function in the website, and we don't have that currently active yet, but that's definitely something we can look into just to make it easier to use. rather than having to go down to each page. And maybe Nicole can address
I'm working
that.
on that. Yeah, so
Yeah.
I'm working on that. If you notice, there's an A to Z index that is set up for each page. We're working on getting that with like have a little search function for each thing. Also right now, the way that we're organizing things as posts and organizing them via categories, we have them coming up randomly on pages. So you can search them alphabetically through the index, but they're coming up as randomly. So we are continuing to fiddle with those things, trying to kind of keep it as efficient as possible on our end so that we can just be really fast on getting stuff up. But that also means that there's always better ways that we could be doing it. So yeah, we're working on that. The other thing that Tia and I are actually just texting in the background on our phones is about how we could better compile. Like we've been good about posting when webinars are coming up, but there's a lot of recordings of things now too that are coming out. And so doing a better job of compiling the recordings now so that they aren't mixed in with resources. So we're working on shuffling things around a bit more in that regards for sure.
Great. Any other resources, feedback, stories people want to share? I will definitely put a plug in for the survey. So it's going to be, it's still up. Nicole, maybe you want to share the page link to it. I'll stop sharing this and just let people know where they can find it. It will go out probably in another announcement today, just letting you know. I'm sorry that it's redundant if you're getting a lot of these announcements, but we are really hoping to get these pushed out. We'll add some additional language in there so it makes it more inviting for producers and other stakeholders across Washington to be able to use as well. So if you look at the WSU Food Systems COVID HUB, Nicole has a link to the needs assessment tool in there.
So I'll just give you.
Uh-oh. We may have lost Nicole's audio. Oh, she's trying. Hang tight.
Can you hear me now?
Yeah. I know you don't have a lot of internet at your home, so maybe it's too much to show the website and try to talk at the same time. But I can definitely do it if we need to, or we'll just make sure, let me see here, that those of you who still want to participate can. I'll go ahead and share this screen, and then Nicole, you can walk us through it if you want, so that way you're not using up all your.
Can you hear me?
Yeah, we can hear you.
Okay.
So here's the website.
Sure. So I just wanted, yeah, I'm sorry, I'm using my hotspot on my phone. I think I'm getting low. So you can see the different categories. You can go down to the needs assessment tool. We're also working on this page to make it a lot clearer that this is for anyone and everyone, especially producers. And for those of you that are resource providers and have already been taking this, we please encourage you to send it out to your networks to encourage producers or other food system stakeholders in your region to participate. That really we're actively looking to get as much information plugged into this as possible. You can see Laura clicks on the link to go to the needs assessment survey, and right away the very first thing is the dates that you pick, and that then also it might be a little bit confusing because the first question it asks is, do you work for WSU? And that is because it will actually sort you to a different survey depending on how you answer that. And I think that that is where we could potentially build out a more robust survey for farmers, and maybe even the questioning here at the beginning. I'm wondering, Laura and Abba, if you have any thoughts, if potentially we could edit this, do you work for WSU? Or maybe, you know, there's 3 things like, are you a farmer? Are you a food systems resource provider? But as
Yeah,
you go
so
into it,
yeah,
see-
you can hit producer then on the next page if you hit no, that you don't work for WSU. So it does give you these categories, but yeah, we can definitely talk about trying to make that a little bit clearer, or just at least in the language that we send out about using the survey.
Does anyone have any questions about this needs assessment tool? How it could be better used, or how we could potentially help you in a rhythm of filling it out each week? I know it's going to be, Laura, it's Saturday to Saturday, the increments of the tool.
Yeah, and you can see here also, we have these draft reports that I shared this morning. We'll change the dates to April 5th through the 11th once the final reports are up here. And I'll run those reports after the week closes. So there'll be a weekly update of those reports, and we'll run a full report with all of the information. And then I'll run 2 separate reports as well for internal WSU and external partners. And we can also sort those, like I said, by producer, by consumer, by different demographic group, by different tribes, by counties, if county directors want a report specifically for their county, or resource providers that are place-based. So just let us know what your needs are in terms of the reporting out, and we're really hoping to be able to respond to these needs by looking for resources to help people participating and supporting the Washington food system as COVID continues to evolve, and whether or not we have direct assistance available, how we can plug people into direct assistance, and so forth.
The one quick thing I wanted to add also for everyone, we'll be posting these recorded meetings on the website. We've had a little bit of technical difficulty with the first one, but we just got it posted to our YouTube page. So on the overview of the hub, on the very general, the front general hub page, we will begin to catalog these weekly recordings. So towards the bottom of the page, you'll be able to go in and view each of the videos for each week.
Finances that you need.
What did you just click there that didn't?
Oh, it just said that there was nothing there for the meetings.
Laura.
Sorry.
Oh, interesting. No, it's good for me to see that because it wasn't like that the other day.
Yeah, we're having technical fun as well. We could use some additional training and resources, although Nicole and Tia are rock stars at shuffling through all this information. So the last question that I really see in the chat was just about food preservation and winter storage. And I know that Lizanne responded to Nils about that, just in terms of looking at specific root cellar storage. But if you have additional resources out there that you didn't hear about today on the call, that you'd like to share with us, if there's anything else that you really need, let us know. We're here to support you and build out this resource hub to be a clearinghouse for all of the information that's coming out. So we are posting things that are really relevant to Washington State, but we're also looking at regional and national partners that have great resources as well. Like you heard Colette talking about the University of Idaho work that's coming out, things that are coming out of NC State, Cornell, really throughout the country. So whenever we can find something that looks useful, we're trying to curate it and get it up here for you. Okay, well, I am going to just post the last slide for our meeting next week so everyone is aware of when we're meeting again. Again, we held 2 hours aside for these meetings, just in case there was a lot for us to talk about. But the expectation is that we probably will finish early, hopefully, most of the time, unless there is something really pressing and urgent that we really want to dig into. If you have specific topics or speakers that you want to suggest as well, please forward them to us. We can start to really create an agenda that's just beyond sort of reporting out of what we've been posting now that we have the ball rolling on this. Our next meeting will be next Friday from 10 to 12. The website will be updated weekly. We'll be posting these notes, and as Nicole said, the recordings as well of the meetings for those of you who had to either drop off early or weren't able to make it. Continue to send calendar events and links to resources such as webinars and whatnot. And I just really want to thank all of you for all the hard work that you're doing to continue supporting the Washington food system. My hope is that as we come through all of this, we'll have a much more resilient, healthy food system for all. And I think that the work that we're doing now is going to lead to that. So I really appreciate all of your input and support as we continue to move through this.
Does anyone have any happy success stories or interesting things that have happened to them over the week that they'd like to share with any of us?
This is Girish. Well, in the midst of everything, I guess we're trying to use the time efficiently. Everybody's trying to. But my students and postdocs submitted 4 proposals last week. Pulled it all together in 3 weeks.
Wow.
And Kathy Blood, who's our events coordinator, she's gearing up everything to offer our classes online in a super short time using the standard trainings from FSBCA. So a lot will be coming out here soon for online resources.
That's great. Yeah, I think we can all speak to how much busier we've all been and the sort of rapidly changing landscape of our work. So when I talk to people who are staying at, we're all in stay-at-home orders, and they're kind of asking me like, how am I filling all of my extra time? And I say, what extra time? It's all work. So thanks, Girish, for all that you do.
Well, thanks for putting this together. This whole group is awesome. Thanks for all the resources you guys are putting all together in one place.
Yeah, no problem.
I'm wondering if we have any farmers that were able to join us today. We get pretty into we heard a little bit from Amy from 4 Elements and PCC Farmland Trust earlier. Is there anyone else that'd like to say hello and let us know how you're doing?
We'll take that silence as a no, I guess. And Nicole and I are going to be working on capturing the chat box now. And so you're welcome to stay on and chat some more if you want, talk. But we're going to definitely invite those of you who have something else to do to jump off and use this time efficiently for yourselves, and maybe get outside and see some sunshine if you're somewhere where the sun is shining. We're going to just go ahead and do some of the logistical meeting functions that we need to do now that we're closing out the session. So again, thank you everyone, and be well.
Should we do a selfie?
Yeah, another Zoom selfie, everybody.
Zoom selfie.
Those who are still there, we got 22 on, so pick a screen.
Okay, unshare, Laura.
Yes, I'll stop sharing and I'll stop recording as well.
Grish is going to be brave. There you go, Grish.
Yes.
Done enough Zoom.